Hello and welcome to my Week 3 Top 25 College Football Review. Enough said. A like and subscribe would help. A comment always helps. So let's get straight into this. So this week was basically just a whole bunch of scares, just a whole bunch of entertaining till the end, but no real upsets other than just a couple. And this was no exception. However, a lot of these games are going to either be really close when they shouldn't be, or just complete and utter blowouts like they should be. This was one of them. I was only off by a touchdown on this one, so nothing to be said there. Miami just took care of business. I actually said, I don't really know why I said this. I can't remember my reasoning. Probably, I don't know. But Washington goes into Michigan State and absolutely just destroys them. It's like this team wasn't even a 2-loss team in 2021. It's like they weren't even good. They're just awful this year. I mean, they were awful last year out of nowhere. They're terrible this year. Really sucks to see what's happening over there because honestly, they were just a 2-loss team in 2021, and now they're just terrible. FSU at Boston College. Our first game, that was a big scare. I already kind of talked about this one in another video, but I said they would win 66-10. They only ended up winning 31-29. Yes, they had this lead. They were up, I think, what was it? They were up 31-10, and then Boston College was just making the climb back, and they ended up winning. But ultimately, I talked about this one more in another video, so I'm not really going to go over this one that much. If you want the explanation, it's on a different video. Penn State at Illinois, I said 38-13. It was pretty damn close. Ultimately, Penn State took care of business, and Illinois was like, let's turn the ball over, guys. I have a great idea for a very tough opponent. Let's turn the ball over. They turned the ball over 5 times, and ultimately, you're not going to win a game if you turn the ball over that many times. Both teams were split in penalties. Let's see what Drew Aller did. He was pretty bad. 16 for 33, 208 yards. I mean, that's nothing crazy. That's not even close to crazy. So Penn State definitely scares a little bit, but I had a feeling this would be a tough one going into Illinois and winning pretty handily. They got it done, though. So that's all that really matters in the end. LSU at Mississippi State. I said LSU was going to kill this team because they just look terrible. And they are terrible, and that's exactly what happened. They absolutely slaughtered them, as they should. This Mississippi State team, I had a feeling they're not going to be good. They're probably they're probably going to be the worst team in the SEC this year, without a doubt. I don't see anybody who's worse than them. And then our first actual upset game, Missouri pulls it off. I already kind of talked about this one in another video, so I'm not going to talk about it that much, but I predicted that Kansas State would struggle but keep out of reach. Turns out Kansas State is actually not that good of a football team and lost to Missouri. And ultimately, Missouri wins on a 61-yard field goal instead of going into overtime. A huge game winner, Missouri storms the field. I already kind of talked about this one in another video when I was fresh off the game, so that would be much better to go watch if you want an explanation. Also because I'm just not going to explain it here because I already made another video on it. So, boom. Weber State at Utah. I said Weber State was going to struggle to even put up points, and Utah was going to show some offensive capability. Well, they did not show offensive capability. They didn't even hold them to a field goal. They let them score a touchdown. 31 points. That's all you're putting up against Weber State. It's just embarrassing, man. Utah just doesn't have offense. I don't know when Cam Rising is going to be healthy. I don't know how long it's going to take, but Utah, let's see. I think they have to play somebody tough in their first game. Oh, they have to play UCLA in their first conference game. So, yeah. They're going to they might honestly lose it. They might honestly lose it to UCLA because they have no quarterback. But if Cam Rising does come back, they might have offense. That's a big problem with a lot of teams right now. Is last year it was too much offense, no defense. This year it's too much defense, no offense. And it's definitely showing for Utah. However, Utah does kind of look a little bit better now after absolutely like shutting out Florida the whole game, and all of a sudden Florida did what they did. So Utah, man, they might really have a very, very strong defense, but they also did struggle against Baylor. So Central Michigan at Notre Dame, I said Notre Dame was going to shut them out. That didn't happen, but still, Notre Dame absolutely kills them. Not by as much as I wanted to see, considering this Central Michigan team won by a field goal to New Hampshire. I kind of was like Notre Dame should slaughter this team. I mean, they did, but not in the sense that we wanted to see. But a win is a win. South Carolina at Georgia, I think this was like, the game of the week or something like that. I don't know why they chose this game over the Tennessee at Florida. I feel like Tennessee at Florida was actually much more important game, honestly. But I said Georgia was just going to drop the bomb on them. No, it just didn't happen. Georgia did not show number one capabilities in this game, honestly. I think they should be dropped pretty soon here if they keep performing as shitty as they are. They've got an absolute cakewalk of a schedule, so if they just are going to stay in the number one spot solely because they're back-to-back national championship winners, we could see this is a very fraudulent number one team. There are plenty of teams that I would actually provide evidence of being ranked ahead of Georgia right now. I mean, even Michigan. I mean, you got Michigan, Texas, Florida State, USC, Ohio State, Washington, Penn State, Notre Dame, Oregon. Like, all of those teams look better than Georgia right now, if I'm being quite frankly honest. All of those teams look better. So this was definitely not impressive by Georgia, especially being down 14-3 going into the half. There's like a pro and a con to that. Yes, you shut out South Carolina from scoring a point the rest of the game, but you also let yourself get in such a shitty position, and then you bounce back, but you only bounce back and win by 10 points against a team you quite frankly should be killing. South Carolina got rocked by North Carolina on their home turf, and you're going to let South Carolina travel into your stadium and play worse than North Carolina? Not a good look for Georgia, man. I don't really like this Georgia team. I think they're bad. I think they're not number one. I think nobody in the SEC is good right now, other than Ole Miss, I guess. Alabama at USF, another team that I said would just kill. I got USF score right, but Alabama, man, their quarterback situation is absurd. I tried to stick up for him, man. I gave him multiple predictions and whatnot. I said in multiple comment sections, but Alabama's really just shit, man. They're not good. They honestly didn't look good hardly anywhere. I mean, this USF quarterback for Alabama or for USF was just making Alabama look like just a random SEC school, like a Missouri or something like that. Somebody who's never really ranked in the SEC, but is a part of the conference. Like, he was literally getting wrapped up in the back and somehow getting out of there running for like 12 yards. Like, it kept stunning me. I'm surprised USF honestly didn't win this game. I'm surprised they didn't put up any points other than 3. I was like, dude, USF, man, this quarterback is like making this defense look embarrassing. Ultimately, Alabama is not that good of a team this year. I think the entire SEC is honestly just dog shit this year. Believe it or not, they're just terrible. They're not good. And I don't even know if they'll have a team in the playoff this year. I mean, judging by the way things are going, Georgia, yes, they have a cakewalk schedule, but like, they could easily lose a game with the way they're performing. They have to go travel into Tennessee this year, and Tennessee just picked up a loss at Florida. So, I mean, there could very well be no SEC team in the college football playoff this year so easily. I think there honestly might be 2 Pac-12 teams. I am so serious about it. But this is the final score of this game. San Diego State at Oregon State. I actually didn't like this San Diego State team. Thought they were pretty shit, and Oregon State was going to rock them. They actually put up a really good fight. Oregon State's defense is just really freaking good and held them to I think a touchdown. Yeah, they held them to a touchdown, and then the 2-point conversion was failed, and then they'd almost instantly, like, they scored a touchdown. San Diego State scored a touchdown with 9:01 left, and Oregon State threw a 75-yard touchdown to go back up. A touchdown. So, I mean, Oregon State didn't necessarily provide today, or not today, but yesterday. They did not impress me. I've been very high on this Oregon State team because of how strong their defense is, and their defense was definitely showing, but their offense was starting to struggle, which is not a good look. DJ was 14 for 30, 284 yards, a touchdown, but 2 interceptions. And honestly, San Diego State's not that good of a team right now. This was not a good look for the Oregon State offense. However, I still think this is a very good team. Oklahoma at Tulsa. This team right now, Oklahoma, man, I just want to see them play an actual opponent because I think they might. I just want to see if they absolutely rock their shit or if they're overrated. Because, man, they're just dropping bombs on these teams. Tulsa lost to Washington like 41-10 or something. Oklahoma travels to their home. Oh, well, this is my prediction. I said 55-10. Oklahoma travels to their stadium and drops 66 on them. I mean, dude, Oklahoma's offense is just insane. After being, 6-6 last year, 6-7, they have just bounced the fuck back. It's crazy. I honestly kind of forgot about this logo. It used to be everywhere because they always been a good team, and then it just disappeared last year, and all of a sudden it's right back, and it's loud. This team looks so good right now. I just want to see him play an actual opponent to see if the hype is false or not. Minnesota at North Carolina. I said North Carolina was going to put up some points, but North Carolina was going to outscore them. Yes and no. I mean, Minnesota didn't really put up any points, but it kind of went in the same sense that I was predicting. North Carolina takes a very easy victory over the Golden Gophers. Minnesota's not good. Watching that Nebraska game, they're just not a good team. Nothing to be said there. Northwestern at Duke. I'm actually kind of pissed off. I almost predicted this one if Northwestern didn't score a touchdown like right at the end of the game to make it look a little bit closer. They scored with 1:27 left. If they didn't score, I would have nailed it. But they lose 14-38. Honestly, I was like, I think Duke is ranked because they beat Clemson and whatnot. Duke actually looks pretty good, man. They could actually be a strong ACC opponent this year. They actually look pretty solid, which is kind of crazy because you don't really see Duke football ever. It's always basketball. You don't really see Duke football. Western Michigan at Iowa, I said that they would hold them to very little points, but struggle on the offense. They actually showed some more offensive capabilities, and Western Michigan scored a touchdown early in the game, and then I just think that, honestly, they probably scored because the weather delay threw everything off or whatever. I'm not going to make excuses, though. They allowed 10 points, which isn't terrible. Good job for Iowa. They definitely needed to put up a game in the 40s after how they've been performing, show that they could do something with their offense. They did. So they did that. I said Western Kentucky was going to pose a threat to Ohio State, and Ohio State was going to score the most, but honestly, Ohio State is just bad on offense. Ohio State did really good. They did really good on the offense. I was stunned. I was like, I didn't think they could do it. They actually did it. Their quarterback, K. McCord, was 19 for 23, 318 yards, and 3 touchdowns. Now, I know it's Western Kentucky, but still, man, he played good. They dropped 63 points on this team. And honestly, my expectations for Ohio State, or I wouldn't say expectations, my theory, I guess, in my top 25 video, I put them in limbo because I didn't really want to determine what this team was. I didn't want to speak too soon. I was right in doing so. If I would have just gone with what I was seeing, I would have dropped them down, and all of a sudden they'd bounce right back up. But I trusted Ohio State, and they performed. I know it's Western Kentucky, but they performed. 63 is definitely speaking numbers. North Colorado at Washington State. I said North Colorado would score 3, and Washington State would kill them. Washington State did kill them, but North Colorado put down 21, which is kind of surprising, honestly, that they scored as many touchdowns as they did. But still, Washington absolutely takes care of business there. They are a very solid Pac-12 team as well. I can't believe I had this team going 4-8 and ASU 5-7, and just look at how much of a bombshell that's been in my face. Another team that absolutely handled business. This is what my predictions was, and I got their score right, but UCLA scored way more points, absolutely slaughtering. The Pac-12 is so good this year. It's actually insane. And a big game. Big game here. I said Tennessee would absolutely kill this Florida team because this Florida team doesn't look very good at all. They don't, but Tennessee just looks terrible. Tennessee looks so much worse. I mean, we knew in the Austin Peay game, we were like, uh-oh. They slaughtered Virginia, which was like, all right, maybe they are good. And then they struggled with Austin Peay, and we were like, all right. And now they've lost at Florida. And they didn't lose by just like a field goal or something. They were down the whole game. They went into the second quarter down 7-26. They put on a field goal in the third quarter, and then Florida just punched one right back on, and then they score. They didn't even have they did. They did have Joe Milton. Joe Milton was the quarterback. That's just crazy. I mean, there's no excuse for anything here. Florida just beat him. Florida just beat him. Yes, it's in the swamp, but dude, Tennessee, you got to win that game. Suddenly, Tennessee has just fallen apart right out the window. This Tennessee team kind of plays into what I was thinking was going to happen is Tennessee is now they get that home field against Georgia. So that most likely will be Georgia's loss of the season. That's what I see from this. I think that will most likely be Georgia's loss of the season. Because Tennessee's going to lose this game. Who knows if they lose another one, they'll be the underdog and whatnot, and then they'll win an upset. And the SEC ultimately will all just punch each other until there's no college football playoff contender, because ultimately nobody's good. Nobody's good in the SEC. Not one team other than, I guess, Ole Miss. Bowling Green at Michigan. There was some injury in this game that I was trying to find out about, but I couldn't. So, yeah, but pretty much, I was pretty spot on. Michigan sits right in that 30-point range per usual. They take care of business. I don't know why they're like, why are they only sticking in that 30-point range? It doesn't make sense. They went into the half up 14-6, and then they just dropped 3 touchdowns. They dropped 2 touchdowns in the third quarter and a field goal. J.J. McCarthy was 8 for 13. Oh, he had 3 interceptions. Oh, my gosh. So maybe Michigan has a really good defense. It's Bowling Green and whatnot. Now Michigan, those stats are terrible by J.J. McCarthy. This week definitely showed a lot of teams' weak links. And ultimately, I got to stop saying ultimately, this week just showed that there is a lot of room for improvement for a lot of teams. Georgia Tech at Ole Miss. This was actually looking like a pretty good game. I said Ole Miss would kill them. That's exactly what happened. This was actually looking like a pretty good game until it wasn't, and Ole Miss just took off. And they took care of business. Very, very easy. Ole Miss looks like the best team in the SEC right now. Honestly, they could win it. They could win the SEC. I don't see anybody near in competition right now. Wyoming at Texas. This was a very good game. I said Texas would handle business very easily. That's not what they did. The final score speaks. The final score says something completely different than what happened in the game. And if you watched it, you know that is a fact. This game was all tied up. This game was all tied up at the start of the fourth quarter. It was just Quinn Ewers finally got something going on the offense. Then they got the ball back, and he scored again on a run. And then they got a pick six to give us the final score of 31-10. Quinn Ewers was 11 for 21, 131 yards and 2 touchdowns. 44 of those came from one pass, by the way. This game was it was all defense. I was actually really surprised by Wyoming. It was all defense. And I thought Wyoming might honestly do it. I was hoping and praying just because of how outstanding that would be if Wyoming did it. But they didn't. Texas takes care, in quotations. They take care of business after struggling all game. Hawaii at Oregon. We knew this was going to happen. They absolutely kill them. Nothing to be said there. And then the best game of the week, by far. I did kind of already talk about this in another video, though. My prediction was Colorado would slaughter them. That's exactly what didn't happen. Colorado clutched up hard, and I'm not really going to talk about this one that much because I talked about it already in another video. And yeah, sorry I went through this really fast. I'm really tired. It's late. I just got off of work like an hour ago. I want to go to bed. I started recording this and I got tired. So with that being said, a like and subscribe would help. A comment always helps, and that's all for me. Adios.